Hello, everyone, and welcome back to day 3 of the Intuitive Painting series. As you may have seen in my previous videos, my inspiration is drawn from a sketch that I did 30 years ago, properly titled Primary Colors. On day 1, I applied a watercolor wash to the canvas and let it dry for 6 hours. On day 2, I started adding the darkest colors with black. I outlined the contrast, and then I started adding coloring where I could find it. So today we are going to start identifying features that I can see just hidden, almost visible in this painting. As you can see, I'm kind of pointing to this purple and pink part of the circles. So those were where the red circle was. I'm kind of seeing some mountains, and the pink kind of like looks like a sunset behind those mountains. And so that whole area kind of looks like it's going to be mountains, like a valley with a sunset behind it. The other areas of the painting, I don't know what they're going to turn out to be yet, so I'm just going to focus on the mountains for today's video. So I'm going to set up my palette the same way I set it up in the previous video. I have red, yellow, and blue, so I'm using Naphthol Crimson, Primary Yellow, and Ultramarine Blue, and then I'm also using Mars Black and Titanium White. As I did in the previous video, I actually figured out the perfect red for this particular painting, and so if you want to check out that video, it's in the description. Otherwise, I mix 1 part red to 3 parts yellow to get my perfect orange, and I do 2 parts yellow to 1 part blue to get my perfect green, and then purple is a 1-to-1 ratio of both blue and red. And then to get some of those lighter colors, I just add some titanium white. So at this point in the intuitive painting, I am completely stepping out of my comfort zone and I am going to try to add perspective to the mountains that I'm drawing. So what I want to do is have the tops of the mountains be kind of a lighter gray, like they're almost in the background. And then as you get closer to the foreground, they're going to be a little bit darker. I have no idea what I'm doing, and so this is just me playing with paint on canvas, and that is what intuitive painting is. It's just playing around and seeing if the colors work, if it tells a story, if it shows what you want it to show. Now, as I finish up with that lighter purple, which is just a little bit of white, a little bit of black, and a couple scoops of that regular purple, I go back into that same pile of kind of a lavender gray color. And I just add another big scoop of the purple to start painting the mountains that are in the next layer of foreground. And as I make those lines up against the mountains, I'm trying to make each peak kind of choppy and different so that they look like an actual mountain range, which isn't perfect where all the little triangles are perfectly aligned. Once again, I'm darkening up that existing lavender by just adding another big scoop of purple to continue with the mountains in the foreground. At this point in my palette, the light purple is essentially too light. So I'm going to start with a pile of the dark purple and just add a little bit of the lavender in to lighten it up just a tiny bit. And once again, adding that to the mountains in the foreground. So I accidentally added just straight purple to the left-hand side. You can see that it's a little bit darker on that second to last mountain range. And so I figured, Rather than trying to blend, I just added pure purple to that very bottom mountain range. Now, as I start looking at this part of the painting, I can kind of see that I've got a mountain with a valley, but it looks like there should be a lake at the bottom. And so I'm just going to leave the bottom part blank for now. For the sunset, I am going to start with just the regular orange, and I'm going to add a lot of white to make it kind of a glowy, yellowy color. Now, in the original um, intuitive painting, there isn't any orange on this side of the painting, so I'm adding just the tiniest bit to emphasize that feeling of the sun at the bottom. Next, I'm going to add just a little bit of red to that existing orange to start making it a little bit more on the pink side to match the original kind of colors that were in that intuitive painting, just to see if I can get it a little bit more on the pink side. As I continue to add more red, it gets a little bit darker, and that is in line with a deepening sunset, getting a darker pink. And on the painting, as I continue to mix these colors together, I also blend them on the canvas so that it looks kind of like a seamless transition from one color to the next. I'm also being mindful of the mountains that I've already painted in here. The sky is secondary to the mountains. The mountains were the more important feature in this particular painting. The next color that I'm going to mix is kind of a darker color that looks dark like the night sky. And so I am going to play with a few different colors because I don't know exactly what color I want. So I'm just going to kind of mix on the palette until I find something that's close to what I want. Now these two colors are quite different from each other, so I just rinsed off my brush and I dried it on the towel next to my desk, and I'm kind of just very lightly blending the purple and the pink together so that they look a little bit more natural in their transition into each other. The last color for the sky that I'm adding is that gray, or the purple with just a hint of gray in it. Again, I am going back in with a dry brush and just blending that really dark purple and the lighter purple. Now, as I was doing the dry brush technique, the paint was still very wet, and a lot of the colors, the lighter colors from the previous painting were showing through. So I did go back with the darker purple and just add in a little bit more of that contrast of where that line is between the red section and the blue section of this painting. Now that the sky is done and it has kind of a color scheme to it, I'm going to go back into all of those same colors and I'm going to work from the bottom up with the darkest color purple on the very bottom, kind of showing where the bottom of this lake is going to be. And then eventually it gets lighter and lighter as we move up towards the mountains where the lightest color of the sun would be. Again, I'm going to use that dry brush technique to kind of blend in the purples with the oranges to make them look very much like the sky, very blended well. The water's going to be a little bit more on the rough side because the water has movement in it, whereas the sky is a little bit more smoother transition. Next, I am adding just pure black to that line between the mountains and the water. I'm not sure what I'll do with that line, but I just definitely wanted to define between the water and the mountains. The final step for this part of the painting is to just add a little bit of some black horizontal lines that make the water actually look like water. So it just kind of looks like ripples in the water. As always, If you like what you're seeing in this video series, please subscribe to the channel and like the individual videos. That helps improve the YouTube algorithm, which allows me to make more and more videos for your viewing pleasure. I will also have a link to the very few supplies that I used for this video. Have a great rest of your day.